welcome to a post-game edition of the Silver Bulletin. My name is Aaliyah Jackson, and with me I have Colin Gay and Wyatt Crozier. And we are here in Ohio Stadium, where Ohio State just defeated Minnesota 30-14. Now, this is just a bit of a strange game for Ohio State. They didn't look particularly great on either side of the ball. But let's talk about this offense first. Dwayne Haskins threw for over 400 yards, even though it didn't really feel like it. What do you have to say about this offense this game?
Well, it almost seems like we're saying, yeah, it's a strange game for Ohio State every single week at this point because, I mean, it's the same storylines. First of all, Dwayne Haskins, first time an Ohio State quarterback has ever thrown for back-to-back 400-yard games.
It's 2 of the 3 only 400-yard games.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
That's unbelievable. And really, he's planning himself. And this week, you know, every other game, it's, you know, Paris Campbell, Terry McLaurin. This week it was KJ Hill, and he was spectacular. 183 yards receiving on 9 catches, 2 touchdowns. He was finding open space, throwing, getting this unbelievable circus catch, one kind of one-handed off a overthrown ball by Haskins. And it was he found his receiver. He did just what he always does. He found his receiver, and then he just moved the ball downfield. 400 yards passing. That's just what I guess we're going to have to consider a typical day for the Ohio State quarterback.
As you said, it just doesn't feel like one of those 400-yard games that you'll look back on and be like, wow, Haskins was so good this game. But when you look at the stats, he was just dominant. Once again, he does it every single week, it feels like. On the other side, there's more issues for Dobbins, who can't really get it going in the run game. Mike Weber did a little better today, but still didn't really get that production that they're used to from those 2 running backs. And I think that's something moving forward that they're going to have to try to figure out.
Yeah, this one game in particular is something that they're struggling on. Is it the offensive line or the running backs you think is the real issue here?
I think it's a little bit of both. The offensive line had a rough game today. Specifically, Isaiah Prince struggled defending Minnesota's best player on the defensive side. He had 5 sacks coming in. It's a little bit of both. Dobbins didn't find the holes that he was last year. It doesn't seem like he's quite as quick off the jump. Weber had a little bit of a better game, like I said, but it's just not what you're used to. It's not used to these 100-yard games, this 250 offense that they talk about all the time. It's just been Haskins throwing the lights out and Dobbins and Weber kind of just falling behind in the offense a little bit.
And I think, this is the 3rd straight game that J.K. Dobbins has averaged less than 4 yards a carry. So this isn't new for J.K. Dobbins. He's just been struggling, and part of that does have to do with the offensive line. Ohio State did see Theron Munford go down with an injury in the 3rd quarter. He did not return to the game. However, Meyer gave an update. He said he was going to be, it's just a hip issue, and he rolled his ankle a little bit. He should be fine for next week, and that's going to be huge for a Ohio State team just as a whole that's been struggling with injury, especially on the defensive side of the ball. In the running game, Meyer kind of said it. He's not used to this change in identity of going into pass first, run second offense. It's usually been the opposite. And I think the thing is what this game told me is this offense is changing, and it has changed. And this is just something that Ohio State is going to have to get used to later on. They're going to want to see not like 50 or how many yards that Ohio State had as a whole rushing. It's going to be more. They want it to be increasing, especially in terms of yards per carry. But this is going to be the offense that Ohio State is going to see from now on, and I guess they're just going to have to get used to it.
Now let's switch gears for a moment and talk about this defense. They felt like they struggled, even they held Minnesota to 14 points, shut them out in the second half. They still weren't looking super great in the pass defense. What do you guys have to think? What do you guys think about this defense now?
Well, Kendall Sheffield set the tone for the first. It was the first drive. Annexstad tested him deep, just like Indiana did in week 1 or last week, and he came up with the interception, kind of set the tone. And then from that point on, it was kind of the same old for the Ohio State defense, kind of getting beat in the middle on slants. That's safety play. And that was a lot of Isaiah Pryor, who actually came up with an interception at the end of the game. But it was just kind of same old, really. It wasn't anything new in terms of, Ohio State couldn't really get a pass rush going in the first half. But, it didn't hurt them. The Minnesota offense really just couldn't get something going. They got drives going, 2 drives in the first half of combined 20 plays for 75 yards each. But really, in the second half, despite all these big plays, this trickery play of 41 yards in the fourth quarter, tried to get the ball going, they just couldn't get anything going. And really, that's going to be counted up as a win for the Ohio State defense.
Yeah, we kept talking about up there how bad Ohio State's defense looked, and then they end up only giving up 14 points. It just doesn't seem to make sense. And I don't know if it's been the exact same, because today it was a lot of short slant routes, and it's been a lot of deep plays that have been screwing up Ohio State, 93-yard plays, these historically long plays. Today it was just a lot of short throws, a lot of really the same slant play that kept working over and over again. The run game was working for Ibrahim for a lot of the game for Minnesota. He had over 7 yards a carry. So it was a lot of just consistency for Minnesota, but they could not get in the end zone. They went 0 for 2 on their field goals, which really hurt them. That could have given them some momentum to maybe make a comeback attempt. So it was Ohio State's defense, a lot of bending a lot, but not breaking, I would say, in this game.
Now, one thing that's really plaguing this defense is a lot of injuries, especially on that defensive line. Do you think that was maybe a factor in why Ohio State struggled in the pass rush today?
Yeah, it has to be a little bit. I mean, with Nick Bosa out, obviously that hurts. They have so many injuries at this point. A couple other players left this game that I didn't even realize. I know Damon Arnett was one they talked about. Draymond Jones looked hurt in the Carmen, Ohio after the game. There's a lot of
Robert Landers
as well missed early. He left early in the game. Thayer Munford on the offensive side. The defense is starting to get plagued a little bit by injuries. They're supposed to have a lot of depth, so I'm not sure how much you want to say that they just don't have that. I don't know if that's a lot of it. But they have to use a lot of these second, third string guys now, and they're going to have to start getting a lot more playing time. And they didn't look that strong today, so moving into Purdue, that might be something to look for.
They became a lot younger very, very quickly. And I think that's going to be something that you're going to have to look at later on and say, okay, if Tyreek Smith, Tyler Friday, all these guys that are young defensive ends are going to get a lot of playing time. This is their time to prove it. Alex Grinch said, just as the defense as a whole, becoming younger, there's going to be growing pains. And if there's growing pains, I mean, they're going to struggle in terms of giving up yards. But like you said, I really like the way you put it, bending, not breaking for the Ohio State defense. And really, it did not hurt as much in terms of scoring. Yardage, that's going to be something. They have something on tape that they want to fix and that they need to fix. But at this point, I mean, they come out, I don't want to sound cliche and like Urban Meyer here, but I mean, they're 7-0 for a reason. And they're 7-0 going into a night game at Purdue that in my opinion, could be a difficult one. We'll see about that. But they bend and they didn't break. But this defense, I mean, they gave up 14 points. So.
Yeah, well, that's all we have for you today. We'll see you guys next week when Ohio State travels to Purdue for another primetime matchup. For Colin and Wyatt, my name's Leah Jackson, and thanks for watching another post-game edition of the Silver Bulletin.